Is there a certain kind of strain you like?
I'm at like a level of tolerance that it all kind of goes out in the wash. It's just,
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
As long as it's over like 70, 80%, I just hit that like all day.
Okay.
Yeah, I go through like probably 3 grams a week of just like concentrate.
Wow.
And then if I get like a big check for something, I'll treat myself and buy like a jar of like really nice like concentrate.
Nice.
Puffco and rip that. But
Okay.
But it's kind of like I can only get to like a 7 or an 8. I ate 700 milligrams edibles about a month ago on accident.
Like you ate?
Yeah. My buddy I was opening for Uncle Laser in Oklahoma, and he came to pick me up, and he was like, Mikey, I got this chocolate bar. It's 4,200 milligrams. I don't know anyone else that would eat it. I was like, oh, great. And 4,200 milligrams is obviously a shit ton, but it was a pretty big chocolate bar. So I broke off the top row that was just like 4 little squares, ate it, and tasted like absolute shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that fucking sucks. And it was called a donkey bar. It said, tastes like ass, kicks like a mule, or something like that.
Yeah.
You know? And so I was like, oh, that's funny. And then I'm looking at 4,200 milligrams, and then I start doing the math, and I count all the rows, and I'm like, oh fuck, I shouldn't have eaten.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if you did the math beforehand.
No,
definitely not.
Well, and we had like a 6.5 hour drive. So worst case scenario, I would just be stoned. And so I ate the 700 milligrams, and like an hour in, I felt like high school high again for the first time in a while. I was like, oh shit, like I'm high.
Yeah.
And then we got to the venue. There was a band playing before they went up. The host goes up and does some stuff, and then I went up and did my set, and I was kind of there. Like I know my jokes well enough now that I can kind of do them from memory, but I still try to be like very present and in the moment. And I was really going through the motions and like getting some laughs, and then like not on stuff that usually does. I finished my set. I went to the back. The owner was like, dude, you're hilarious, and brought me over a bunch of barbecue. And I thought the barbecue was for me. So I ate all of the barbecue, but he had brought barbecue for all of the table. And I was like, oh, my bad, dude. And then he brought blackberry cobbler. And again, I was like, I assume this is blackberry cobbler for Mike. And I ate so much blackberry cobbler. And he's like, God damn. I was just like, I don't know. And then I laid against, like during Laser set, I laid against the back wall and just like slept for like 20 minutes. And then his security guy came up and was like, yo, dude, you got to wake up. And then we just went out and had like a night. But like, I feel like most people would eat 700 milligrams and be useless.
My spine would slither out of my body.
Yeah.
I would be in the hospital 100%.
Yeah. And I did a 20-minute set, ate, took a nap, and then went out.
Yeah, that's superhuman strength, dude.
Yeah,
honestly.
I think there's probably like some kind of enzyme thing going on, because I've met a lot of people that smoke as much as me, and they don't have that same edible tolerance. But I've encountered like a handful of people that do.
Yeah.
What's
your normal edible dose?
If I'm taking just for fun, it's 200, because that's enough.
200. I gave him a 1.5, and he's like,
dude,
no,
I used to be a hardcore stoner, but edibles were the one thing that my body, like I have the opposite enzyme of you. Whatever you have, I have the anti-enzyme for that.
Edibles
so
just
jealous. Fuck me up so. I don't know. Grass is greener on the other side, buddy.
Dog, that sounds so nice to be able to take an edible and feel it. Like I'll be out all the time, and like I'll be ripping my pen, and someone will be like, "Oh, I have some edibles. Do you want some?" And it's like, it's 5 milligrams.
Yeah,
I'm
literally just eating a actual gummy for gummy's sake.
Yeah, and I love gummies, but like
I'm fat. I'll eat the gummy, dude.
Yeah, it's just like fuck. Like it would be nice to be able to do drugs and have them work.
That's true. A low tolerance is handy, but at the same time, my tolerance to other things was unreasonably high.
Yeah,
I could take a fuck ton of acid.
Yeah. I have as I've gotten older, my acid tolerance dropped. In like high school, I could eat a 10 strip and be fine.
Same.
Wow.
And
good old
now,
times,
like I haven't done it in a while, because the last time I ate like 350 mics, something like that. It was 2 gel tabs of this like gold flake stuff. And I ate
the
that.
Blue gel tabs?
It was clear with like little gold in it, but they look like little pyramids.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I ate those 2, and then I ate like 3 or 4 points of Molly. And I was in La Jolla, and then I went out with a group of people, and there were 2 people in the group that had never done acid before. So I was like, oh, I've done it bunches of times. I'll take care of everybody. I won't eat a crazy amount. So I ate mine, and then we got out to the beach, and we were looking at the waves, and right as one of the waves crested, all of the sea foam looked like TV static. And like that usually would be like very pleasant, like, oh, this is crazy, you know, but my brain was like, that's your brain melting. You know what that is. You know that's not real.
Yeah.
Your brain is melting. And I was like, what if I broke it? I've done so much drugs. This is the one that broke it. Fuck. Oh no, I'm going to be insane forever. And then I realized like, oh no, it's bad trip time. So I told everybody there, I was like, hey guys, I'm having a bad trip. I'm going to just go and freak the fuck out for a while.
Dude, it's so funny when you're like, when you're a psychonaut and you've done enough psychedelics and you can catch those moments.
Yeah.
Because when you're new, you have that and you're like, oh, I'm going to die. And then you just go down a rabbit hole. But you have like, it's like you know the trauma enough that you hit that bad trauma moment and you're like, oh, I might be freaking out. I'm just going to go remove myself. And then you handle your own shit, your own shit.
It's timeout time. You're like, I'm going to put myself in a corner and just fucking lose it, but privately. But not freaking everybody else out because it's just going to make everyone else weird and then it's going to freak me out more.
Yeah, they're going to have such a bummer of a time and then I'm going to feel bad about that. And that's just going to
spiral.
Doom spiral. But that was actually, I found out I had a guy that was a fan of my old podcast that just happened to be in the area and he came by and just dropped off some Xanax. And I'm like sitting outside of this Airbnb where I'll stay at, just losing my shit, just melting into my hands, freaking out. And I don't know how I had enough to like send him my location or whatever. And I posted something on Instagram. So people were like, hey, are you okay? I was like, I'm not okay, but like, I don't want to talk about it. And then he showed up and handed me a Xanax. I was like, all right, bud. And handed me a beer. And I ate the Xanax, drank the beer. And 10 minutes later, I was completely fine. I was like, whoa. And then I did a whole bunch of ketamine and freaked out.
Yeah, there's always that moment of like, you're praying. Yeah. You're having this conversation with God or whoever. You're like, I swear to God, if you get me out of this, I'm going to change so many things. It's all going to be good. Please get me out of this. And as soon as you come out, like an hour later, you're like, let's fucking rip it again.
Hey, God, turns out that was a lie.
Hey, God, thanks.
I know this is the 5th, 7th, 20th time I've had this conversation, but I promise after this one, it's all good.
I got crazy into DMT in 2020, like at the beginning of the pandemic and like right before it, and was doing it, 10, 15 times a day, just out of a pen. Yeah, just
what got you into DMT so hard?
My buddy had the pens.
That's all you need, honestly.
It was after like a shitty mic one night, and he had showed up, and then we went and sat in his car and ripped it. And I had some song come on, and it was like, it felt like the first time I did any psychedelics. It was just like, this is incredible. But I didn't like break through. I just had like very fun closed-eyed visuals. And then I bought a pen and would just sit in my room and just rip it and just wake up like gripping the sheets like, what the fuck? I was like, that's awesome. And then I figured out if you're drunk and you do it, you come up way faster. Huh. And I had one night where I probably ripped through half of that cart, just going up as much as I could and just staying up there. And it feels very schizophrenic to describe how much you can tell there are other people with you there. But it's like, yeah, I was just like hanging out with spirit molecule people up there. And it's so fucked. But the last time I did it was at a Mad Max themed festival. And I found out like if you do enough hits in a row, I think something about it produces oxygen and it makes you sleepy. So if you like take enough rips in a row, you'll just fall asleep. And I'm like a terrible insomniac. And I'm out at this festival and I'd eaten some mushrooms and drank a little bit. And there's all this cool stuff going on. And then a huge windstorm comes through. And we're in the middle of the Mojave Desert. And I'm staying in a tent. So that's just like battering around. And one of the guys comes and reinforces and like drills my tent in. But I'm just like sitting in this fucking canvas thing that's just flapping. And I'm like, oh, there's no way I'm sleeping now. Like this fucking sucks. So I took out my pen and just was going to rip it until I passed out. And then I'm starting to come up and I put my AirPods in and I go to put music on. And I realize I'm in the middle of the Mojave Desert. I do not have any service and I have no music saved. Like, fuck.
That's brutal.
Yeah, so I have nothing. So I'm like, I bet I have concert videos. Like I'll just, so I have that. And so I'm playing those. And I close my eyes and I'm having a really good time. And then I saw, like, if you've been at like any of like EDM stuff where people that do gloving.
Yeah, dude. I've been a glover for years.
Perfect. Yeah. So it was like two beings doing a gloving dance with each other and they're making symbols. And then they made like a heart. And then it was like very clearly communicated, like, don't come back. In like a loving, nice way, but very stern. And then they made another heart and it was like a black and white, like Felix the Cat looking thing. And it was like very nice and nostalgic feeling and like good feelings. And then I opened my eyes and was like completely normal. And so I haven't done it since. So the only thing I've done since then is just like little bits of mushrooms here and there. But I feel like the psychedelic world was like, hey, Mike, we're done with you.
Yeah, the dude, it'll teach you a lesson real quick. And humble. I got humbled by DMT a couple times. Yeah. Okay, maybe I should just fucking chill out a little bit. I like lost my sense of being able to speak. It was also at a festival, and I had a cocktail of things in my body, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm just ripping the DMT pen, and I get to the point where I'm like, I couldn't speak at all. I'm like leaning up against a tree, and apparently I just started crying. Like I had a little emotional moment. No big deal. Whatever. Men cry. It's fine.
Yeah.
And then I opened my eyes, and all my friends are like sitting around me, staring at me intently, because they think I'm apparently. So in my head, I was doing this. I was like bobbing my head. In reality, I guess I was like flailing like this super hard. So my friends are looking at me like, "Are you okay?" And I open my eyes, and they're like, "Are you okay?" They're asking me, and I'm trying to tell them I'm okay, but my mouth does not create words.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and they think that I'm having a bad trip, and I'm literally fine. Like I'm literally having a good time. And then I started getting pissed off that they were asking me if I was okay and trying to help me.
Yeah.
It's like, stop it. I'm good. Just go away. Stop staring at me. And then, then I went like deep into this, like almost like paranoia.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I got to chill out on the DMT for a while.
Yeah. It'll get you.
Yeah.
My warning signs before I got like my message from them is I started getting like the taste of DMT out of those pens is so specific.
Alien dumpster fire.
Yeah. And then that initial rising feeling that's kind of like when you hear a good song, or it almost feels like goosebumps. It's like goosebumps pre-cum. That's like that's what the feeling. And I would get that feeling. Yeah. And I would get that feeling like throughout the day. And because I wasn't hitting a pen, I would feel the feeling, and then I would kind of taste the taste in my mouth. And then I would assume that I had died. And I was like, well, that's when you make DMT naturally. Yeah. I just died. Oh shit, you're dead now. And just like 20 times a day, I'd be like, I'm dead. I was like, that's not a good way to walk around the world.
No.
Did you have moments from doing all of that DMT that had other impacts on your life that were like beneficial, like exploring out there, other than, them communicating and telling you not to do it anymore? Did you like walk away with certain messages about your own life, or even just with comedy?
I didn't really get any like, I wish I'd gotten some like cool like guidance on anything. What I more got was like, it feels so like obnoxious to explain, but it was just I've had enough hallucinations and done enough stuff that like I know the difference between like my brain wanting to see stuff and then things that I'm not projecting at all, that I'm just witnessing. And I had a closed eye visual of like a giant rotary gear, like rotating, and there was like little drops at the top, and as it rotated like counterclockwise, they got bigger and then they released. And just like intuitively, my brain said that's where souls come from. And that was just like souls being made. And there was just like this whole like crystallization moment of understanding like what our universe is, who we are, like the dissociation of looking at your own body when you open your eyes and seeing your hands, but they're not your hands. You start to understand that there's like a piece of you that is your consciousness, and there's a piece of you that's the physical, like monkey body. And those two are joined for this like little segment of life, but that like, that's not you. And that like, when you're using like DMT like that, you are experiencing consciousness from the elevated being and not from the monkey being. And then you look at this like skin suit, and like your hands are your hands, but they don't look like hands anymore. There's like something very grotesque and very just fleshy and weird about it. And so like all of that was like, okay, so there's this place that souls are created, and then the souls come here, and the purpose of life is to experience like significance, because significance can only occur in linear time, because above this, time is all happening, has happened, and will happen at the same time. So nothing has any significance to it. So to come here, both good and bad, because it's linear, it can only happen in that fashion. So like that's the reason the souls go from this upper place to this lower place, is they go down a dimension to experience things that can't be experienced up there. And like all of that just like hitting your brain, it's like, I get life now. And then you're like, what the fuck do I do with that? You know? Cool, I get it. Now I'm gonna go talk about my dick to strangers. Like it's just, it seems so, and like also like saying that to someone, I fully like believe that and felt it and saw it, but I understand that that sounds exactly like the dude on 7th Street that's just like blah, 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 souls, you know? Like it's homeless schizophrenic garbage, but it's what I believe now.
Right. Well, even the homeless schizophrenic garbage has some truth to it usually.
Yeah.
Like they figured something out. They just don't know how to communicate it well.
Yeah. Life hack, no rent.
Dude, easy. Easy.
Do you ever do washout periods with taking cannabis?
I've tried here and there. My anxiety ends up ramping up too bad, and it just my quality of life goes down. I had 2020 at the end of the year. I got arrested for a weed pen and got charged with a felony.
Jesus.
Where? Here in Texas?
Yeah, Dripping Springs.
Yeah, they'll do that.
Fucking.
Yeah, as soon as you get out of Austin, man, you gotta you do anything sketchy, they'll try to get you.
It's crazy. Yeah, and I just wasn't even like thinking about it. I was driving from LA to Austin, and I was 45 minutes from making it, and then got pulled over.
Damn.
But so because of that, I had to clean out for a little bit, and like it's cool having dreams come back. And like now, what I do more is I'll just like buy some lower quality stuff and smoke it less for a little bit, and then I'll go back.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to know your
I'm
body
fine
and
with
what you like about it and all that stuff.
Is there a level of high or drunk? Like, have you found the sweet spot for comedy?
I know where too far is,
Yeah.
but everything else is kind of good. Like, I really enjoy performing sober, like with just completely clear mind, no weed, no booze. I really enjoy like 3 drinks in, and I really enjoy performing high. But I think it kind of depends on what the show is and what I'm doing. Like if I'm doing roast battle, I need to be mostly sober. I've done a couple where I'd been drinking and just the crispness and the memory doesn't work as well. But like,
You probably got to be super on for a roast battle.
yeah, for roast battle, it's one, you have prepared jokes. It's like a chess match of sorts because you know what they look like, you know what you look like. You trade information before the battle, so you have an idea of what they're going to write about. And like for me, like there's always fat jokes, there's always bad tattoo jokes. There's always something about how happy or bubbly or smiley I am. So like I know all of that, and then it's guessing what they're going to write about me to write a rebuttal, plus writing for them, plus listening to what they're saying to see if, one, I can say something in the moment that's good, or if it fits with one of the rebuttals that I've pre-written.
Right.
And like remembering the order and gauging like the response on stuff. So there's like, 15 things happening at once, and having a drink or two can help feeling loose and not worry about as much. But I would rather have my whole faculty about me for that. But like if I'm doing like a 10-minute spot somewhere on just like a showcase and I'm in like the middle of the show, then I can be, as long as I don't have more than 3 or 4 drinks and I don't have any like other crazy stuff in my system, I'm good. Like,
so are you the Austin roast battle champion?
The title, so I was for a while. I've beat everyone in town at some point.
That's pretty sick.
So I've done that, and I had like the most roast battle league points for the city last year, and I've had a bunch of number 1 battles on the roast battle like national like ranking stuff. So there's I mean, I'm one of the best battlers, but there's not necessarily like a champion at the moment.
Right. But you're ranked, and
like I'm
you
ranked.
basically beat everybody.
Like everybody that's been in any of the things I've beat at least once. So
how did you get into roasting from comedy? Why did you want to go that direction? Because it's a very niche thing that most comics probably can't do or don't want to do.
Yeah, I think so I don't do crowd work. I just like I don't want to talk to people up there. Like I have things to say and I want to say them. So most of the times that I've done crowd work has been someone heckling or disagreeing with what I'm saying. I have some bluer, edgier material, and so it's more challenging, so people can get upset at that. And so I'm used to responding to them. And with stand-up, like until you make it and have like a real degree of success, you kind of just say yes to everything.
Yeah.
And roast battle is fun because you get to flex the comedic muscle of writing jokes, but you have like a prompt. It's specifically you're writing jokes about this person, and it's just kind of fun. Honestly, it reminds me of being in high school and like in the football locker room and making fun of people and like everybody just roasting each other, and it was just like fun with friends and that rapport. And then there's a mic that a lady named Candace Medina started called Banana Phone, and I think it's like the most fun thing in Austin. I think like I don't get why it's usually pretty packed, but to me it should be standing room only at this point. So it's a bucket style open mic. So all the comics go and sign up beforehand. They put their names in a bucket and they draw them out 5 at a time. And the sets are kind of undetermined length, but you get 1 minute up top of, you can say anything, you do comedy, do whatever you're going to do up there. And you have 1 minute of protected free time. And then after that minute, Candace rings the bell, and then it's open season for everybody in the crowd. So there's usually,
the crowd could just start heckling you now.
Correct. So there's 5 to 8 comics sitting on a panel in the front, and they all have microphones. So they'll usually start it off with some stuff, and then the crowd will join in. And it's so fucking cool to see all of that. And you see people like honing that skill, and some people are just naturally more talented at it. And I have fun doing that, and then I just say yes to battles, and I'm decent at it, so I do good.
Where is that again? Just for everybody.
That Banana Phone is at Creek in the Cave, Sundays at 10 p.m.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a good time.
It feels like comedy, to be a comic, and as you develop as a comic, you really have to, it's like an introspective process too, because you're like, what are the points I'm going to get roasted on? And then also you have to get comfortable just letting it slide off too.
Yeah.
It's like this, the more we watch shows like Kill Tony or people roast each other back and forth, you're like, man, you really have to be secure or okay with like looking at yourself to prepare to be able to even battle or make jokes back.
Or hate yourself so much. You got to go the complete other side.
Yeah.
And just be okay with taking the heat.
I don't know.
And sending it back.
What do you think about all that?
I think it varies person to person. I know there's like a lot of self-loathing, and then there's a lot of like kind of misplaced narcissism where it's like, well, I'm so great that it doesn't matter what you say about me. I'm still awesome. And then there's also I have never had trouble laughing at jokes that people made at my expense when they are cleverly written. I have heard 10,000, oh, your last name's Eaton, you're so fat, like that shitty joke that doesn't take any effort. But when they're written about me, it's like someone knew me well enough and saw me well enough to be able to write something that's funny. Like that's kind of awesome, honestly. Like so there's part of it that's kind of vain, where it's like, oh man, a funny joke about me, my favorite topic, you know. But I mean, the introspection is tough because it not every comic does it, and also you kind of have to be there's a middle path, right? Like a weird Buddhism to comedy where you need to be delusional enough to believe that you are hilarious and incredible and one of the best and gonna make it and all of that stuff, enough to push through all of the bullshit. But then you also have to be self-aware enough to realize like, these are my shortcomings, these are my flaws, this is where I need to work on, like comedically, and like to be able to honestly say like last night, my closing joke on my first set at this coffee house show, it just flubbed. And it was like that joke always works. How did that line fucking fail? And then on my walk from that place to the creek for my next set, I listened to my set and listened through it. And it was like, well, they didn't get a reference earlier in the set that was like just a vaguely, they didn't know who Mitch McConnell was. And it's like, if the crowd doesn't know who Mitch McConnell is, then they're not going to understand how funny it is to bring up Harriet Tubman at this later thing. And so it just, I have the self-awareness to like, I did do bad there, but then looking into why I did bad, is it because I delivered it poorly? Is it because it didn't make sense? Or was it the crowd didn't know that? So how could I have, so now I have this piece of information. If I'm talking to a crowd that's not very smart, this joke doesn't work. But like just that, finding that middle ground of that, you have to find a way to be okay with not being the best, but still think that you could be.
Do you listen back to your sets often?
Always.
Always.
Yeah.
We were talking about this today. We were having a conversation about like listening to your own podcast or whatever to like find the things that you can improve on. Because I worked in sales my whole life, and I've always like reviewed sales calls. You have to, like, that's the only way to get better is you look at the shit that you feel like you did wrong and figure out how to improve it. And Brent's he brought up a good point. He's like, there's a lot of actors that don't watch their own movies. Specifically, like, I'm not going to watch my movie. And so I guess there's two camps to like thinking about it, but I'm of the camp of you should analyze everything thoroughly and figure it out. But I guess it's, to each your own.
Yeah, I think acting, like, also there's so much that goes into them becoming an actor that they've definitely reviewed themselves and watched themselves and stuff, and had like, especially with like professional actors, they have acting coaches and people that tell them how to do their face and what to do.
They've reviewed it for years.
Yes, they've had that drilled into you. There's no teachers in stand-up. Like, there's no like you can get like a comedy coach, but they're all bullshit. It's all broke comics trying to make money.
Yeah.
Like that's all.
It's like a business professor.
Yeah, those who can't do teach. You know, it's just one of those like things. But I listen back to everything, and I was given that advice pretty early on and passed that advice on to every other comic. I don't know any. I can't think of any good comics that don't listen to and review their stuff, because when you're on stage and you're in there, there is like a flow state that you can reach where you're perfectly in tune with the crowd as like a collective becomes an individual, and you're having a conversation with that collective, and the stuff going on in your brain and the stuff that's happening, and then like the through line and all of that, like you can lock in on that and you'll feel the laughter and you'll hear it and you'll be very in tune with it. But you can totally psych yourself out and think like, oh man, I was fucking in it, crushing, just murdering, and like a little pocket of the room like you, but like tape doesn't lie.
Right.
You know, go listen to the recording and it's like, oh, that's fucking ass. And then like there's other moments. I have a very bad habit of giggling when I'm nervous, and I do have an honest giggle about some of my jokes and things that I just enjoy and think are funny to say. But then there is a nervous one that I do. It's not intentional. It just comes out, and the pressure of up there and feeling a joke not work, I laugh to signal them to laugh, and I don't do it consciously. And trying to eliminate that is I have to listen and be like, well,
Right.
This is when you do that. All right, these are the words you say in that order. You don't pause to laugh there. Even if that doesn't hit, having the confidence that once they digest what you're saying, then it hits. Because that's the other part is with a joke, you have it in your head and you know what's funny about it, and you've written it and you've done it before ostensibly. And so you know what's coming, but they're hearing it for the first time. And not everybody gets jokes right away.
Mm-hmm.
And like, not everybody like will put two and two together, especially if it's like a crazier, like a leap in logic.
Right. Sometimes that silence after the joke where you just let it simmer is so key, because there's the delayed pickup and someone hears someone else laugh, so then they start thinking about it and then they get it later.
Yeah.
And when you get like the popcorn laughs.
But man, that silence is terrifying. And time dilates like a motherfucker up there.
I'm sure.
Because you say a joke and you're like, all right, laugh. Oh God, you're not laughing.
One Mississippi,
fuck.
two Mississippi, three
and you can
Mississippi.
count, and it'll feel like 25 seconds of silence, and it was, it's like, what the fuck? So there's that side of it too. Yeah,
That's a mind fuck.
mm-hmm.
Do you have, I'm sure you do, but like, who are some of the comics that you've looked up to over the years as you were coming up and like sculpting your style? Who have you sort of taken inspiration from?
So I did like traveling sales and covered like all of Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Arkansas.
What did you sell?
For, like, it was promotional products. So like merch for businesses, essentially. Okay. So I represented a handful of companies and then would go and meet with people that sold it to the end user. So it's a very niche section of business, but it was a big territory. So I drove a lot. And so I would just listen to comedy albums over and over. Like old Tom Segura stuff was huge. Chad Daniels was my favorite comic forever.
So funny.
There's a lot of like kind of that era of like Eugene Merman has an album, God is a 12-year-old boy with Asperger's. And it's weird and wacky, but it's fucking hilarious. He's the guy that voices Gene on Bob's Burgers.
Oh, nice.
And he was a comic before he did all that. And so like finding that stuff, and then like Daniel Tosh's comedy album, like his stand-up albums that got him Tosh.0. Like, a lot of people know him from Tosh.0 because that's what makes his money.
But his stand-up is raunchy and hilarious.
Dude, it's unbelievable. I mean, he's just super fucking good. And then Louis C.K. has been...
You opened for Louis, didn't you?
I did. I got to host for him, and that was unbelievable. I mean, that was the coolest moment because I got to sit at Creek. There's the stage, and then it connects to like a little loading room and then the green room. And I got to sit in that side stage area and watch just one person sitting in a little room and got to watch the show while he was on stage because I was hosting. I was like, man, that's the best. But yeah, I've listened to those albums so many hundreds of times that kind of shapes. It's funny because you hear the way that they talk about stuff. And then especially early on, I would listen to these albums and then I would start to write my own stuff. And it was like, oh, well, that reminds me of a thing that happened in my life. And that would be how I would figure out material. And then you realize you're essentially just doing like covers. It's like you're
comedy cover.
Yeah. You're like, well, I've taken, and it's not stealing their joke, but it's like you've stolen the cadence, the idea, the premise, and then just plug and played with your own ideas. And so I've stopped listening to stuff as repetitively. I listen to podcasts more now than anything, but like when someone puts out a special, like that definitely influences most of what I feel now when I watch the stand-up special when it's really good is I'm going to kill myself. I'll never be that funny. Because there's just some guys out there like Dan Soder is so unbelievably talented. Sam Talent, so unbelievably and those are guys that, and it's also weird to be in circles where I run into them and on shows with them and like, at Skankfest, like in the same green room. And it's like the difference between what I'm doing and an open micer is huge. Like the difference between a person off the street trying stand up and me is a lot, but the difference between me and them feels as much or more. And so there's that. I'm still developing what my voice is. So I've tried to not have as many influences now in that because I got to figure out who me is up there.
Yeah, you need the influence to get started.
Yeah.
But then at a certain point you have to kind of shut it out.
Yeah, I mean,
find
see
yourself.
what's possible. Yeah,
right. That's cool.
I'm curious, what is like from your like being on the inside of the comedy scene in Austin? Like, what is it like, and how has it changed? Because you always hear that it's kind of becoming the mecca of comedy, and every time I see a new guy's like, I moved here to Austin. I moved here to Austin. You see it all the time. But I'm curious, like the behind the scenes, like what is the energy and your schedule throughout the week? Like, what is that like being here?
So it's really interesting. So I started comedy in 2018 in Austin in May and just started going to all the open mics that I could do. And I was still working my old job, so I was traveling a lot. So when I would go to Houston or San Antonio or Dallas, whatever, I could do mics there as well. And that was fun. And there was, Austin had a very cliquey kind of exclusionary feel to it back then. There was this old guard and there were these 15 to 20 comics that did basically every show. And then people that came in from out of town would do those shows, but there wasn't any like upward mobility. There wasn't anybody like at the open mics that did so well that they were on shows. And then I would go out of town, and that's like one of the secrets of like beginning in stand-up is if you go out of town, people will book you just because they know that if they're in your town, you'll book them. And there's like this weird barter system. Right. And you are generally nicer to people from out of town because they don't for whatever, like the real reasons behind it, like the pragmatism of it is that they're not stepping on any of your toes because they don't live there. So it's fine to give them a spot because that's just that one spot and it doesn't affect your ecosystem. So I would go out of town, I would get on stuff, and then I'd come back to Austin and be like, dude, I just crushed on a show in Houston. Can I please do this show? And just couldn't get the time of day. And I had a friend that had an extra room to rent, and then a guy that was going to hire me to coach loan officers. So I moved sight unseen to LA and met a handful of people, made some friends, and then had like a really fun time. And the LA scene was very interesting because it was cliquey, but it was also supportive. And there was just this, it did feel very transactional. Everybody was kind of, I'd like to help you, but what can you do for me kind of thing. But there was also just unlimited ambition. Everybody was trying to do something crazy and awesome. And everybody wasn't just a comedian. They were a comedian and an actor and a podcaster and have this side hustle and run this window washing business and like all this stuff. And so I liked that aspect of LA. And then 2020 happened, it shut down. And then I started coming back and visiting Austin. My mom lived here, so I could come and visit her, and this was open, and I started doing shows here, and there was this really cool feeling. Joe Rogan announces he's moving here, and then the city starts to kind of like churn, and the old guard of Austin was very adherent to like COVID policies, so they were like, we're staying inside, I'm not going to kill anyone's grandma to do my silly little jokes. Like they're masked up and vaxxed up and like that. And it's, to each their own. Everybody do whatever they want to do. But that was just the consensus among the old Austin comics seemed to be that like we can wait. It's not important for us to get out there and do comedy. And then there was this new wave of people that a lot of them started during the pandemic because they're like, well, the world's going to end. I might as well try stand up. And then a lot of them had moved here from other places that were closed. They're like, well, New York's a shithole now. LA's a shithole now. Like all of these places. And they'd all found their way into Austin. And Austin has always had a lot of transplants and has had a very fun energy about that because everyone that's here chose to be here. Like they want to be here.
Yeah.
And that's a cool feeling to have a city where like no one's like, I can't get out of this town. You know, like that's Dallas. That's Houston is people get trapped in these fucking cities. It's a vortex. Yeah. But Austin, like it's like people are here because they choose to be. So there's the kind of that same dreamer energy I felt in LA, but then there was like a humility to it because no one had anything and there wasn't anything to be gained. There was no accolades here yet. There was no like clubs going on or doing anything. And then Vulcan, you know, opened up and started doing stuff. And then these guys started doing stuff at Sunset. And like, it just was, just like a really wild era. And things started popping. It was the Wild West. I mean, people were flying in from other cities and huge comics were coming in and doing these like just 10-minute showcase spots. And it was really cool because everyone had this energy of like, we're all in this together. And then, Creek opens and like that's happening, and like Velveeta Room reopens, and like there's now there's a bunch of clubs going on, and then the Mothership opens, and then the Sunset Strip opens downtown, and now there's all of these clubs in the middle of there, and then Mothership with its accolades and power behind it, and Joe Rogan and all of the best comedians in the fucking world performing there, it establishes itself as like the premier place, and it's like this is the A1 club. And they did their door guy auditions, they hired them, and then it kind of started to shift from we're all in this together and we're all trying to be Austin comedy and put us on the map and be like a legit third city for comedy. And then it started being like us versus them, and there started to be kind of some of that, and that's subsided a little bit. And now with the way that Kill Tony has exploded, there's like so many different groups of comics here and so many people moving here. And so you've got a bunch of people that think they can do comedy, they have what it takes, they're very funny, and they're doing nothing about that. They're not going to open mics, they're not really writing much, they're not doing anything but signing up for Kill Tony every Monday because they know when they get pulled, they're going to get famous and they're the next one. So there's a lot of those. Like
I feel like we see them all the time.
And then those are the people
we're
that
like,
bomb
did
horribly.
this guy even?
Yeah,
I've been doing it for 7 years. You're like, bro, what was that joke?
It's fucking. It's nuts to see how many people are like. That's why I was talking about that middle path.
It makes
earlier.
sense
like,
because we watch stuff and we're like, I don't think this guy has been practicing at all.
And a lot of them don't. And it's crazy to see how many of them have deluded themselves into thinking like, I'm a working comic. I go out and I do open mics 10 times a week. And it's like,
right.
Well, when was the last open mic you did? It was like, well, I signed up for Kill Tony last week. No. When was the last time you got up on stage? You know, how many times have you done that? And also 1 minute of stand-up isn't like a huge indicator of stand-up talent. So there's this kind of parlor trick of being able to say stuff that's funny on stage and pause and make faces and misdirects that you can do in a minute that like, it gets confused for the actual stand-up. And like, so the guys that are the, you know, getting the golden tickets and the regulars and the guys and girls, you know, but the people that are getting those accolades, they're the ones that are out doing all the other shit. Yeah. Like, I remember when Cam Patterson moved to Austin, I'm pretty sure it's because of, like, he had a conversation with Uncle Laser in Florida, and Laser was like, you got to get to Austin. I remember seeing Cam at every single comedy club. I would be doing a show and Cam would be there, and I would be doing another spot and then Cam would be there, and I would be walking in between and we'd run into each other. And like, he was working his fucking
it's like this relentless just attitude of going for it. Like, cause like, I think you brought up a great point. 1 minute isn't a good sign of whether you're a good comic or not. Cause you can fit some funny into a minute, but to do a 20-minute set, you better be practicing at 3 open mics a night. It's just hitting the stage as often as possible.
Yeah. And the difference between a 1 minute set, a 3 minute set, a 5 minute set, an 8 minute set, a 10 minute set, a 15 minute set, a 20 minute set, they're all completely different animals.
Yeah.
And what you can do with them is all very different. So like, it's weird now because there is a bunch of legitimately good, funny comics that are working their ass off and grinding and doing shows and mics and writing and making sketches and doing all of that. And then there's like a shit ton of these just people that have said, I'm going to be famous and are just trying to do that. And it's nuts. So like the closeness and the like community of the comedy scene here has felt, I just got too big. And now it has started to get a little LA-ified where it's become more transactional, and it's a little more of the like, well, who do you know here and where can you get me in kind of place. But there's still like really crazy good comedy happening at like every level all over. And that's cool to see. I mean, there's like 50 or 60 shows every Friday and Saturday night happening across town.
Where do you see this going for Austin?
I don't know, man. I really don't know. The issue that I see, so one of the issues that I see is that outside of Kill Tony, there's nobody from the Austin scene that is really popping career-wise, that has moved on to that next level without moving to another place. So we had like Casey Short Nemo is a great Austin comic here, and then she got hired to write for SNL. So it's like now she's in New York doing stuff. So like that was like the next level, but she had to go to a different place for that.
I see.
And then like the people that are touring and selling tickets, all the ones that are selling a bunch of tickets are Kill Tony regulars. So those guys are doing it. And then there's a handful of people that have like their own tours that they have been building for a while, and they tour out of Austin, but nobody has like really leveled up. So that's kind of one of the issues I see, is that because everything is so focused in on and all the attention goes to Kill Tony and kind of the Rogan sphere, is that the development from, there's a lot of 0 to 1, but the 8 to 9 and 8 to 10 kind of stuff, that's not happening here as much that I'm seeing. There's a lot of people that are, because there's not a lot of long sets in Austin, it's very difficult to find a 20 or 30 minute set to do in town because there's only so many feature sets going on, which are that length, and there's only so many headlining sets going on, and the headlining sets are generally reserved for touring headliners. So if you're someone that wants to try and be a headliner, you got to go out of town and find a place that you can go and try and do 45 to an hour.
Do you usually have to go to like smaller towns to go headline?
Yeah, so like depending on the level you're at, like it's mostly, and now because comedy is so democratized, it doesn't even really fucking matter where you go, because you can go and call a bar and say, hey, I'm going to sell tickets on Eventbrite, and then you can just go headline anywhere. You know, that there's clubs in smaller towns will give chances to smaller comics, but now also the comedy landscape has changed, where it used to be the club's job was to fill the club. And the club would run a great club, and they would be discerning about their booking, and they would say, like, we want the best comics coming through, and we'll have a built-in audience because they will respect the club's taste in talent.
Right.
And this is how you'll discover new people. Outside of the crazy, you know, A-list, you know, top 100 comics that are coming through, we're going to show you and turn you on to the people that are in the next up. And then all of the ticket sales stuff started to impact that. And now if you have a YouTube following or a TikTok following or anything on social media and can sell tickets or do characters or anything that's not stand-up that gets people to want to see you live, they'll book you. And it would be dumb for them not to, because you're going to sell 500 fucking tickets. Why would they not want to make that money? And so it's tough to, figure out. So like I will go in headline towns and I'll spend all this money on advertising and put out reels and promote, and I'll sell, 10 tickets. Or sometimes it pops and I sell 60. It depends on the place. So there's something about that lack of longer sets in Austin. And there are places that are trying to do, like Creek has a show called Creek Featured, where they'll have 4 or 5 comics doing 20-minute sets. And that's awesome, because those are the people that are going to be the next up for features for touring comics. But outside of that, like there's not a lot of longer sets available. So that kind of stunts the growth of people. And then Austin, because it's got such heavy churn and so many people visiting, like you really got to stay doing well and staying in front of people and like going out and networking and socializing and doing all of that to just not get overlapped.
Do you think that's why podcasts are so popular among comics?
It's
like a way of,
yeah,
to push more content out, but it also gives you a little bit more of like, hey, I want to get in here. I have this going on.
Yeah. I podcasts are also, I think most comics, it's like, stand-up is unique in that when you hear a joke, outside of like some of the longer like formulaic storytelling stuff, like Ron White stories, Tater Salad, The Machine with Bert Kreischer, there's not a lot of joy in listening to it a second time. Like I like autism out and love listening to like the technical side of it, but I'm not laughing anymore. Like if you watch me watch hilarious comedy, it's very scary because I'm like, that's fucked up. And
that guy's a serial killer.
Yeah, like for sure. I'm like deadpan in my car just staring. It's like, that's brilliant, But for just like a person that's enjoying and consuming comedy, they go and they listen to comedy and then they laugh at the joke. But that's the big reveal's done. You know how the sausage is made and you get the end of it. So you know the whole thing that I was setting you up for. So once that's out, it's done. So it's Pandora's box. So once it's open, you can't put it back. And because of that, it's hard to use material in a way to gain fans that doesn't you have to write more jokes or release jokes that you're not doing anymore, so that you're not ruining people's experience there live, or at least not lessening it. And podcasts are a way to, one, freeform talk with people, and so you develop some material and you can flesh out ideas there. And two, it's something that is out there, is showcasing your comedic skill and allows an audience to follow and participate in your journey without ruining anything for the show. It's just marketing that doesn't burn. So.
And you have 2 podcasts.
I do. I have Highly Social, which is just me talking with comics. It's basically just like a green room vibe. I really like that one because I like, my last guest I had on was, I'm waiting for the episode to come out. I filmed one with a few guys in the RV on the way to Skankfest. So that'll be a really fun one. But the one I had before that was Casey Rocket. And Casey's awesome because I remember like the first time I saw him, I was doing a show at the Hilton Garden Inn downtown. And it's on like the 17th floor, and I'm headlining, but it's a fucking hotel bar show. Like it's headline. It's so funny. Like people latch onto that stuff, but it's like it just means I'm going last. It doesn't it doesn't mean I'm not. I don't even. I was probably making $20 for it or something.
It's the same with the DJ scene too. It's like I'm the headliner. You're just playing at midnight.
Yeah,
you're not doing anything special, dude.
You'd probably rather go on at 10.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming I'm next, and I'm standing in the back, and then the host calls up Casey Rocket, and I'm like, what the fuck kind of name is that? It's stupid. And then he starts singing White Wedding and like moving around the stage and doing a bunch of doing Jar Jar Binks material. And I lost my fucking mind. I was like, I don't even want to go up now. I just want to watch this guy do that. It's fucking incredible. And then I told him that. And then my first podcast I had here, Giggle Boys, I would have him come in and do the worm report, and he would just do news about worms. and it was, dude, it was fucking awesome. And like, that was like, I wasn't like making a bunch of money, but we had like a studio, and it was cool. See, he's like living in his car, and it's like, sometimes I could just shoot him some money for gas, and like just trying to support. And like, cause the first time I saw it, I was like, this guy's gonna be fucking famous. He's unbelievable. He's doing something that no one else is doing. He's like undeniably hilarious, and he's unique. Like, that's so fun.
Yeah.
And then to watch, like as, he starts to rise, and then like even before the Kills Tony stuff, there was a big comedy competition at that the guys from Sunset ran, that like the finals were at Vulcan, and watching him just like surpass every other comic in the scene and win that competition, and then watching like Rocket and Friends, his shows start to blow up at Creek in the Cave and start to sell out every week. And then to see his clips start blowing up online, and people start, like buying the merch, and then he gets on Kill Tony, and it just explodes. So it's been cool to watch all that. And so then you get to have him on the podcast and talk and catch up. Like that's fun. And my other one's just food, because I like food.
Is the food one new?
Yeah, the food one. So there's a handful of guys when like Shane Gillis, Matt McCusker, and all of that, the Matt and Shane Secret Pod, like that group moved down here. A bunch of the scene around them moved down, and all of their friends moved down. And one of the guys in that group is Andy Malafarina, and he's a very funny comic. We met opening for Robbie Bernstein together, and we were just talking about food, and he just moved to Austin and doesn't know any of the Austin food, and I know all of it. So I was like, dude, let me show you Austin food, and we'll just record it and see what happens. And it's weird figuring out like other skills that aren't comedy, because I've just had all of my eggs in the comedy basket forever. And it's like, I'm just going to get good at stand-up. And it's like, now I got to figure out how to hold a camera and like angles for stuff, and fucking learning CapCut and Adobe Premiere. And it's like, what am I wanted to tell jokes.
I just want to tell, I want to tell dick jokes to strangers.
Yeah. Like I have a joke I've been doing about ducks. They have corkscrew penises.
They do. Terrifying.
It's so scary.
Yeah.
Girl ducks have corkscrew vaginas.
Well, that adds up.
So, but do they spin to fuck? Like, so like,
they must.
So, but I have a whole thing about it, and I yell about duck rape for like a minute in it. And it's really fun, and it's like a really good time. And I had a show that I did in Dallas last weekend, and I remember when I got off stage thinking, dude, that duck joke fucking murdered. I had all of the timing down, the pauses were right. I didn't nervous giggle. I added like a couple of tags that were improv in the moment, so it's gonna sound great. I hit them up. They got the footage. And I was like, yes, they filmed it. This rules. And then I finally got the video from it yesterday, and the guy sends me the Google file, and I'm like, yeah, and I download it and I put it into CapCut, and then it's a 20-minute set, and I find this 3-minute section and I cut it down, and I'm listening to it, and the sound is just pulled from the mic.
There's no audience.
So the laughter, you can hear it as much as comes into the microphone from the crowd.
No.
But it sounds like I'm eating a fat bag of dicks.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I crushed.
Terrible. So you're just yelling duck rape and it's just silence in between.
Yeah. And it's like, you can hear what sounds like three people kind of enjoying it. And it's like,
That's pretty funny though.
That is hilarious.
That's pretty funny.
It is funny.
Maybe you just throw a laugh track in there. Just make it kind of weird.
Juice it up a little bit.
right. So I put it in CapCut and then I'm looking at the file and I'm like, what, how do I isolate? And then I had a buddy called me and gave me a tip that I could pair I record every set I ever do on voice memos on my phone, and I could pair that audio with that video. And because my microphone was facing the crowd, I was like, oh, that's perfect. But then there's I have to hit enhance. And so I spent 3 hours yesterday learning about wave files and trying to match audio.
You became an audio engineer?
Yeah, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that at all. I want to talk about penises. I want to talk about duck rape. That was the whole point.
Here's
of
your
this.
chance, man. This is your platform.
Yeah.
Go ahead, duck rape.
Oh, dude, it's wild how much, and then having to learn ads and making. I can listen to my stand up because I really love stand up so much, but listening back to my podcast, it feels like a gun in the mouth the whole time.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for AI to figure out if they could make an AI clipping tool that would take my podcast and change my voice to an Australian accent so that I could listen and hear it, but with not my voice.
I'm sure that exists.
And I really like Australian
good
accent.
idea.
Wait, why don't you just do an Aussie accent while you talk?
Because then I'll listen to me do an Aussie accent. I fucking hate that. I needed to be not me talking, and I needed to be interesting. So that I'm so it feels like I'm listening to someone else's podcast.
I see.
I'm like, dude, this Australian guy's hilarious. Yeah. And then I find the timestamps from that, and then I take the filter off, and then I have my clip.
I see what you're getting at.
And I enjoyed listening to my podcast back because it wasn't fucking me and my stupid nasally gay voice.
Everybody's voice sounds nasally and gay when they listen back to it, though.
Yeah, especially when it's a nasally gay voice.
Exponentially nasally gay.
Yeah.
So what is your hustle like during the week? Are you doing 4 shows a night, 4 shows a week, 5, and you recording episode of each podcast multiple times? I think it's always interesting, the hustle that you're doing throughout the week. Because obviously you really love this craft and you really enjoy it and you take it very seriously. And I can definitely tell by what you're saying, you're putting in a lot of effort. And I think other comics listening to this or people who may be getting interested, it's like what's a possible schedule or a mind frame?
So a typical week workflow for me is it's very much up in the air. There's almost no stability to this, and it's very feast or famine. So if you think just cyclically, there's 150 shows, let's say, in town that happen, and I've done all of the 150 shows, and they're ranked, and they go kind of in that order. And the idea is to be on as many of those as possible, as often as possible, but you can't do them every week. And you don't have new material all the time. And you have new stuff you have to work out, and you can't take the stuff that you need to flesh out and do it at the really good shows. You got to take the really good stuff to the really good shows. So there's kind of figuring out and planning around that. And then a lot of it is looking at what people have asked me to be on. I've done this long enough now that 95% of my bookings come from people reaching out to me. Hey, will you do this show on this date? Are you free on this time? Can you come to this city type of thing? But then also I have to prospect and reach out to do the longer stuff, the out of town stuff, because I'm not on everybody's radar. I have clips that pop off here and there, and I'll have something, hit, good numbers, but that doesn't necessarily mean that a club saw that or anybody that's booking a club saw that. So I'll part of my week will be sending Instagram messages to people in other cities and looking for stuff. A lot of it is figuring out what to do to make money that week. So I have a bajillion different things that I do to make money. I do some voice acting stuff for a few radio stations. I do some copywriting stuff for my old job from back in the day where I do email marketing and video marketing for them. I have a golf charity company called Hole Hecklers that I work with, where charity golf tournaments will sponsor a hole and hire us to come and sit on the green and heckle people. Yeah. So literally it's guys during their backswing and while they're backswinging, just making fun of them. And then we do it to raise money for charity. So it's a really cool and fulfilling thing, and you make money doing that. So there's So a week for me will generally have 1 or 2 money making activities that are, most of the day. I work with another company here, Pitch a Friend, that's like a big dating show here in Austin that's really awesome. So I have something with that. So like this week, for instance, I pull out my schedule and then look at it, because this is a very typical comedy week for me. So it's Saturday. Monday, I had nothing, and it was awesome. I had a day off. It was very nice and very much needed. Tuesday, I did, during the day, I went to therapy. And then at night, I did the show Feud at Creek in the Cave, which is a game show where you debate your opinions as a comedian. So that's a really good show, because that's one of the, not that it's lower tier because it's bad, but lower tier because the pressure to bring good material is.
I like that concept.
Is there? Yeah. I can go into Feud and have these, like, one of my premises is, or one of my opinions on there was that Amber Alerts shouldn't be loud and annoying. And so I just argued for the sake that, like, when I hear an Amber Alert go off and it's loud and annoying and interrupts my song, my first thought is, I hope the kid dies. It's such an abrasive and awful sound. And like,
I think we all collectively feel
yeah,
true.
and like, I believe in the power of like manifesting, and I think that our thoughts create power. And if like 100,000 of us hear that and go, fuck that kid.
Yeah, that kid's dead for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like we're like, make it a nice sound.
You should get like a quarter of a Bitcoin each time.
Dude, like do the whatever the
Singing
Hertz
bowls.
resonance, to make it like a happy sound.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh, I want to find that kid. Because like I have been in a lot of cities and a lot of states performing, and I have never once met anyone that's actually looked at the license plates around them when they get an Amber Alert.
No.
Like you get this thing that's like, hey, look for this kind of car. It's like, I've never even remembered what the car was.
You're just trying to push it off as fast as possible. You're get this thing off my phone.
But so that's like a premise that I had written, but I didn't really have any verbiage. I didn't have a punchline. I just have this idea that I don't like them being loud, and it makes me want to kill the kid. And so then like getting to argue that and then finding the stuff in that. So that's like a good working out material show. And so that was Tuesday night, and then I would hang out after Tuesday night. After that show, there's like a 10 p.m. mic and a midnight mic, and so I hung around there, watched a couple of newer guys go up, caught up with a bunch of people. I was just doing shows in Reno, so I was out of town for like a week and a half, and so it was nice to catch up with everyone and just see how everyone's doing. And then Wednesday, I had the Pitch a Friend event. So like during the day, I didn't really do much. Nice to sleep in every now and then, and then. So I did go to this event, and from 6 p.m. to 11:30, I'm doing that. And that's, so for them, it's people presenting like their friend to be dated. And Austin's dating scene is horrible. I mean, it's just like none of the guys want to commit to girls, and all of the girls are ridiculous. So it's just like a weird thing where like all of the people that are like actual viable dating candidates are out there, and they're like, I don't want to be on the fucking apps. The apps all suck. Like, and I don't know where to go meet people that aren't just alcoholics, because everyone in Austin is an alcoholic. So this event like really garners a lot of unique attention, and so these people are presenting, but going up and presenting from a slideshow in front of 1,200 people is difficult and like nerve-wracking. So it's the other people pitching their friends. So I coach them on how to pitch their friends.
Like if I wanted to pitch Brent, I'd make a slideshow about Brent.
So you'd make a slideshow about Brent, and you'd be like,
I'm absolutely
Brent,
making a slide deck about Brent.
He's gainfully employed, 6'8" or whatever. You can just say whatever you want. But so like I go and I coach and help them, and then help run the event. And then like I think this is the third or fourth one. This guy, John, brought the event from Philly and has been running these. And like the events before for this company, Pitch a Friend, they've been like 70, 80, 100 people. And then Austin, it's like 1,000 fucking people.
That's awesome.
So it's, watching, it's his event. So then I'm just helping, and I'm there with another comic helping. So that was Wednesday. And then Thursday, I had Dress to Kill, which is a show where everybody dresses nice. And that was at the Punchline in Houston. So I left with another comic, and then we rode there and we talk and we, riff and have fun. And then, the show in Houston, so you get to see a new club and meet the owners there. So then it's like, I need to shake hands with all the managers. I need to make sure I meet them. And then I need to that's one of those shows where you got to do your best stuff and bring like your A-list stuff. But like also I was hosting. So that meant I was going up first, and me going up first and doing my style of jokes can be dicey. because they are fresh in off the streets. They've just been hearing normal words all day, and then I'm saying duck rape.
Then you're gonna say some racist, rapist shit.
Yeah, and like I have honestly worked really hard to make sure that all of my racial jokes are racial and not racist. Like
that's a key distinction.
The object of the joke is never that, haha, they're black. Like I have a 4.5 minute Harriet Tubman joke, and and like there's some very intense words in there. No hard R's or anything, but just talking about like human trafficking and like slavery and all of that is like a difficult subject to broach, especially in crowds and stand up, especially outside of shows of like a specific race. Stand-up's like predominantly white. Like just all of the crowds are white. Even if like unless you're at like a black room or a black, like there are black rooms at black shows that have a bunch of black people there. But like at the show in Houston is a very diverse city. It's the most diverse city in the country. And there was 100 people at the show, and I would say maybe 10 to 15 non-white people. And so it's like, in that context, doing the Harriet Tubman joke, I have to keep in mind that one, this is going to be uncomfortable because all the white people are going to look at these black people to see if it's okay to laugh. And that's going to suck for them. And two, if this joke, if you take it the wrong way, you can take it in a racist way and be like on the side of the point that I'm making in a shitty way. And so now it's like, I got to tiptoe this line. It's like, so do I even bother doing that? So I have to choose how I set that joke up. So I have a different, very nice joke that I go into it with, and then the juxtaposition makes it funnier. But so like all of that, so that's Houston on Thursday. And then we do the show, we go and eat afterwards, and then drive back. And then yesterday I had a show at 8 and then roast battle at 11. And I did a set before that. I didn't battle. I just went. I was there to be an extra judge in case one of the judges didn't make it. But so like then tonight I have a show at 10, and then tomorrow I have a podcast at 2, and then I'll probably go to Banana Phone at 10 for that. And then Monday I will probably spend most of the day writing because I'm doing. I can't say where yet because it hasn't been announced, but I'm doing a very big deal roast battle against like a really awesome opponent. So I got to start writing for that. And so like my days all kind of have stuff I got to do to make money during the day, and some of the kind of the benign stuff, and then like chores and shit of doing fucking laundry and going to the gym. And then it's like, well, when is Andy free to do the food podcast? All right, we'll knock that out today. And then once the food podcast is edited or done, like recorded, then I got to go do the editing for it. So that the workflow is very much putting out fires and just.
Yeah, you got to be really flexible, it sounds like.
Yeah.
The kind of personality that's okay with no structure.
Yeah, I do better when there is structure, but like...
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Oh, well.
Yeah, make your own.
Yeah, like eventually like the goal is that all of this stuff starts to work at a level, or one of the 18 things works at a level that I can, afford to have more structure. But now it's kind of like, I got to do this today to go make some money. All right, I got to do this today because this, and just it's constantly looking for more opportunities and then focusing on the opportunities you have, and then not just working on the business of comedy, but working on the craft of comedy and writing more material, and then remembering all of the things that you got to do in between, and it's juggling.
Do you dance on your Instagram? Is that the best place to find you for when you're doing all shows like Banana Phone? We got to go check that out.
We got it, tomorrow night.
So much fun.
What time is Banana Phone tomorrow?
10 p.m. So the thing that's very weird about shows, so when people want to see me, I always tell them like I do post every show that I do on my stories.
Okay.
But in terms of like just from the financial aspect of it, if I'm headlining the show or producing the show, I make a percentage of the tickets that I sell. So those are the ones that I promote heavy and talk about, and it's like, hey, I'm headlining this day at this time, and those. Whereas most of the spots that I do around town, like the show I did last night, the first show, I don't even know if it pays. It may pay $10-20, who knows, but I'm not going to go and post that on my grid and, make a big promo video for that, or put it on a website or go through, because it's also, if nobody shows, that gets canceled. It was a new venue trying something out. It's at a barbershop /coffee house, so there's, And then like the show tonight, like I'm doing a 10-minute spot, but like I'll probably get $5-10 for that. Like I'm not going to post that, but I post it on my stories. Like
$10. Wow.
Yeah. Like I want people to come to them and if they want to come see the show, but those shows, like most of the spots that I'm doing, the onus of bringing the crowd in is on other people. And I don't have enough, like future dates that I benefit from to justify having like a website with a list of dates on it.
Right. And you probably do so many of those shows too. It would be absurd to promote every single one. So you kind of have to pick the top ones, like the ones you're headlining or hosting.
Yeah. I'll do like when I have like a good little run of like 20-25 shows in like a month and a half period to announce, I'll put all of those on a grid post and I'll have a picture of me on stage with here's all the dates and times and cities I'm going to be in these places. Or like if I'm doing stuff out of town, especially, I'll post a grid of the flyer if I'm headlining it. But or like if I'm on like a picture on the flyer, I'll put that or collab post people. But most of the time it's like I'm just not at a level yet where if people want to see me and they're in Austin, just about any day of the week I'm up. But
awesome.
Other than that, it's just follow the Instagram.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, man, this was super fun.
This is great, dude.
Thank you for coming out. Busy schedule, obviously. And
thank you guys for having me.
Shout out all your stuff. Where can we find you?
Yeah, everything is on the Mike Eaton Instagram. I got the Highly Social podcast and I Could Eat, but I got all the links in there. It's just one thing to type. Yeah, Mike is Eaton.
Yeah, awesome, man.
Yeah.
Sweet, dude. I guess final thing I'm curious about, is there anything that you wish people knew about the comedy scene?
I think what I would hope for, I had a really interesting conversation with a friend of mine, two friends, Wes Barker and Chris Ramsey, and they are comedy magicians, and they are next level comedy magicians. A lot of times you hear that and you kind of think of the silly, hacky stuff, and these guys are doing magic that is mind-blowing and jokes that are very good. So that like they really have honed a craft that's very unique to them, and they were talking about with magic that a lot of magic is still kind of in its knock-knock joke era. And thinking about that just like wrinkled my mind. It's like, oh, man, like there was a time where everybody thought the funniest shit in the world was knock-knock jokes. Like it used to be genuinely funny to be like, why'd the chicken cross the road? Like that made people laugh for a while. Like and it's just, as our tastes have evolved, the craft has evolved and things have gone. And so now comedy is in this new era where there's a lot of this improvisational and crowd work stuff going on where it's very in the moment. And then there's also, you see like the Casey Rocket and like Stamptown guys, like where there's this absurdist.
It's like experimental craziness.
And they, like there's people, that obviously influenced them that you're doing it before, that were doing unique and crazy stuff. But it's just seeing all of the different genres and styles of comedy. What I would hope for more people is just to realize how much like stand-up is out there and how different it all is. Like there's so many different kinds of stand-up that no matter what you believe, what you're into, what you like, there is somebody out there telling a joke about it. And it's just like, if you don't like a specific comedian, it doesn't mean you don't like stand-up. It means you didn't like that specific comedian. And I wish that more people knew just how much stand-up is out there, because it's like there's so much and it's so fucking good.
It's like rule 43 of comedy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you can think about it, it exists.
Yeah, there's porn of it.
Yeah, 100%, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, Mike, thanks for coming, man. This was
absolutely.
super awesome.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot
dude.
of fun, guys.
It was a pleasure.
You, man.
Hell yeah.